Welcome to Giants Nation player profiles and projections. And today we're going to start off looking at rookie offensive tackle Marcus Mbow out of Purdue, the 5th-round pick for the New York Giants, a 6'4", 303 pounds, 32-inch arms. We didn't know what position he was going to be playing when we did this PPP episode, and part of the reason why we saved him for the second to last week in this. Right now for the Giants, he is playing strictly tackle, which Grump, we talked about him pre-draft. We certainly talked about him post-draft. We can, talk about what he does well, and there's a lot, and we can talk about what we worry about, and that's his strength. But I keep on coming back to, I would give this guy a shot at tackle before I just assume he can't do it.
Agreed. We talked about it at the Senior Bowl too. Young guy, 22 years old, young by today's draft standards, I guess. Huge question marks coming out of the Senior Bowl. I actually looked up too, just to see what the hype was when he was at the Senior Bowl, and a lot of it was like, I think there's even a tweet by Jim Nagy that's just like, some are saying that he could be an elite guard. And we kind of talked about the things he does well, the things he doesn't do well, but like the concerns are the strength, right? And on the inside, that's a worse thing to have a concern about than on the outside. And what he does well, and we'll go into more detail of this, is he's got great foot speed, and that really helps you on the outside. So while you might have those same concerns that he might just get bowled into the backfield on the edge, I think that his foot speed can make up for it. And I think that we've started to see that this preseason.
Yeah, and if he doesn't work out at tackle, I'm moving him to center and not guard. Because of, like you said, just like some of the momentum strength stuff, where at center against most nose tackles, I think he's just going to be so much more advanced than whoever he's facing up against. But let me kind of talk through my write-up on Marcus Mbow, and then we'll go through there, because he's had a good preseason. We don't like to talk about preseason and training camp too much in these player profiles, but with rookies, we'll let it leak in a little bit. Last year gave up 3 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 21 pressure. So not great numbers, right? So it's not, we're talking about some guy who was dominant in offense in college. But not terrible numbers, but not great numbers either. He's a versatile, quick offensive lineman who can play all 5 spots. Very fleet-footed, allowing him to do different things. Really struggles with power, whether momentum or through contact. Soft shoulders and gives up ground versus speed to power. Footwork is very good. Mirrors laterally extremely well. Recovers well to slide in front of rushers. Loves to work jump sets and close space in a hurry. Jump sets versus speed can leave him behind, though. Throws out different passes to keep the rusher off time. Passes are always smooth with his feet. Uses independent hands and replaces really well. Will use hand tricks to get rushers' timing off. IDs blitzes stunts extremely well. Gets off the ball quickly to pounce defensive linemen and torque them. Flexible hips that allow him to roll into blocks. Flexible hips allow him to shift weight where defensive lineman is going. Defensive lineman able to wrestle off of him in closed spaces. Stronger defensive lineman shed fairly well. Good mover to consistently be used in wide zone. Will use slingshot on the backside of zone. Good puller and mover in space to get to spots. And I had him as a low second rounder. The strength thing is really where any type of worry with Marcus Mbow shows up, because for a rookie, he is advanced. He is the longest film breakdown I've ever done on a non-quarterback. Spent 45 minutes, because there's so many different things that he does to his game, where that's why I was willing to take a risk on Marcus Mbow. Now, in the 5th round, I don't think it's even a risk anymore, because he's just so advanced in everything he does that I just feel like a guy like him is going to figure it out at some level in the NFL, whether that is, at tackle, whether that's at center, whether, as a 5th-round pick, you can, if he's you're one of the better backups in the NFL, you can live with that. But I just think he's going to figure it out at some level in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, you haven't mentioned there, and it's a little bit intangible, it's something that we wouldn't really know right away, but you piece together along the way. So he started playing at guard in 2021 at Purdue, left and right side. Then he played almost entirely at right guard in 2022, and then entirely at right tackle 2023 and 2024. Now, I know that statistically he didn't do super great in 2024 in 666 snaps. Um, he did pitch a shutout at Ohio State. No pressures at Ohio State. Only 1 hurry against Oregon. So, while altogether there are some bad numbers, in the biggest games and the biggest ones where Purdue should be, he should be a Purdue tackle should be losing against Ohio State edges. He didn't. But what was really surprising is, like I said, the hype around the Senior Bowl was that, and we see it all the time, especially with offensive linemen, the position switch, right? And you have coaches there, you have NFL coaches, you have guys encouraging you to succeed in the NFL by doing what's best for your career. And there was a ton of talk about him moving inside, moving back inside, I guess you could say. And he remained confident that he was a tackle. And when it came to the Senior Bowl game, he played left tackle. So the confidence is something that they've spoken about. He's aggressive and he's smart. He's played all over the line. He's clearly learned things along the way. His hands are very advanced. Just his ability to work independently, get hands off of him and reset, really, really good, especially when you do have those strength concerns. Um, I really think that the sky is the limit for him because he has the right mindset. He's the ability to learn and get better and constantly work at your craft is the kind of thing that you need when you have, one trait that's not ideal, something that people always mark against you. It's like that drive to get better and find ways around it.
Yeah, and here's the thing is if we're talking about something that you can't get by without, I think if we're talking about this guy who's super strong, but he doesn't have the athleticism, we'd be like, okay, well, that's the guy that doesn't last. Where Marcus Mbow has the athleticism to go with all the technical advancements in his game, where I just think he's gonna figure out, and I said it pre-draft, he reminds me of Zach Tom, who just got a big contract from the Packers, who Zach Tom out of Wake Forest was this tackle who had good film against Jermaine Johnson, but it was talking about moving him inside, and he falls to pick 140. Marcus Mbow went pick 154, and look at Zach Tom now. Probably one of my best draft hits on. He reminds me of him. Where I just I don't know. This guy has a good film. I think he's gonna figure it out. But Marcus Mbow had a good training camp and preseason, and so there's gonna be rushes like, oh, this guy can replace Jermaine Illuminor. If he gets an opportunity to play tackle and he plays really well, then sick. I still do want to see him try other positions too, though. You know me, I'm not the guy who's looking for position flexibility. I'm looking for you to find a position and be good at it. But I, I would if he ends up if we're in year 3 and he's only played tackle and he's okay, but you might be looking to replace him. I'm gonna be I wish we would have seen some of him at center because I just want to find whatever position he's best at and keep him there. But like I said, I think tackle should be the first crack, and that's what the Giants are doing with him.
Yeah, and I would say the early returns on that have been pretty good. Now, obviously, there's a whole lot of nuance to that. So, I mean, he hasn't just been going against third and fourth stringers and guys that, we'll probably be talking about in, the spring in UFL or anything like that. He's been getting reps with the ones and twos. But I really would like to see him at least compete for the swing tackle spot. Now he had that shot when Andrew Thomas was out. We're not really sure if that's going to keep going, but I do think he can at least push for that first backup spot. And I think for me, he should be a tackle until he doesn't look like he can be that, or tackle may not be his best spot.
Yeah.
Because and here's why, right? I think it's one of the hardest positions to nail, to just find someone that just works at it and can be really good. And let's just say that next year he does take Jermaine Illuminor's spot at right tackle and he's above average. You're paying him $1.1 million to play right tackle. That is the biggest bargain in the world. So I think until he shows that he can't do it, I think that you should be at least trying for that.
And that's why getting him in the 5th round compared to, the 3rd round or even top of the 4th round is nice because you don't have to figure it out quickly. If he's going into year 3 with a position change, that's not a terrible thing for a 5th round pick. So like you said, I agree. We're giving him the tackle thing is first priority. That is his position. That's the position he wants to play. We interviewed him in Mobile and he was very clear about it, where a lot of guys were like, "Oh, I'll just do whatever they ask me." He's like, "No, I want to play tackle. I want to prove that I'm a tackle." It's just with that strength stuff, like we said, we see him in training camp and preseason. My worry is that when he starts facing guys who can combine their quickness and strength, that he could be someone that gets abused at tackle versus those good players. And listen, those guys are valuable. like guys that, lose versus, the great players one-on-one. You give them some double help. Those guys play 10 years as starters, but I want more for Marcus Mbow. So if he's at that level of player, I'm asking the Giants to figure something else out at right tackle so we can try him somewhere else.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I would say the one thing is too is with the strength, right? I mean, like, I don't think that offensive linemen really come out of college and go to the NFL and get more athletic. They don't really get better movement skills. Not really. I mean, and they certainly get better with their hands. They certainly get better at working the hands and feet in tandem. Um, but one thing you absolutely can get better is get stronger. You can get stronger.
Yeah.
So I have high hopes for Marcus Mbow. I think that there is a chance that the Giants found a steal in this draft.
Absolutely. And one way to get stronger is body armor. This player profile is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, and no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. With great tasting flavors like strawberry banana and orange mango, Body Armor will level up your hydration game. Grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor. Choose better. You'd be glad you did.
You will be glad you did.
Glad you did. Let's talk about Cordale Flott, year 4. Talking about these 2022 draft picks, it's like, damn, man, we're here. Like, this is the end of the this is it. It might be end of the road for you. Cordale Flott, 6'2", 175 pounds, 24-year-old corner. 2022 third round pick at LSU, was the youngest player drafted that year. In college, he played the large majority in the slot. As a rookie, he played exclusively outside corner. Year 2, he played exclusively in the slot. And then year 3, he played on the outside again. Year 4, he's sticking to a position for the first time for 2 years in a row. And he may be starting over a third-year first-round pick in Deontay Banks.
So I think Cordale Flott had kind of an interesting career at LSU, and I think he left school early based on a tumultuous sort of situation at LSU. And due to injuries, I think he sort of started playing slot when he didn't want to, or maybe that's not his best position. And I know like all of the draft analysis on him was that he was this slot guy. He was this slot guy, and I didn't do Cordell Flott analysis before the draft, so I had to play catch up later, and I was really confused because I didn't see. I saw all the traits of an outside corner, um, and in a man scheme thing, he really does shine on the outside. First of all, he's got the length, he's got the height. He's a little slender, but he's got the athleticism too, and I think that in terms of one-on-one, maybe not necessarily press man, but definitely in man situations, has the instincts to know when to close, and he has the speed to do it, the short area quickness to do it. Um, I never quite understood Cordell Flott in the slot and what people saw there other than he did it in college. Um, so I think that this is his home. I honestly think that this is what he's best at, and you know, is he a starter? I'm not really sure about that because the difference between him in man situations, and I think being aggressive right at the line of scrimmage, pressing up against guys, and he has these highlight moments where he's right up in AJ Brown's face. He's not afraid to play AJ Brown. We saw it the other day on Garrett Wilson. Not afraid, jumps right in, gets a pass breakup. That's where he looks good. In the zone, that's where the instincts start to look really bad, and the reaction time is not quite you want it to be.
No, and the numbers are kind of crazy between man and zone. Um, like I'll go like for last year overall, he gave up 29 catches on 43 targets, 67%. 350 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 5 pass breakups. Um, so he was 63rd of 83 and fourth in completion rate, or and fourth in completion rate, 57th in completion rate. But there was also a lot of slot corners below him who have a higher completion rate. So it's even worse than what it sounds when you say 57th out of 83. But the man versus zone splits are unbelievable. And this is not just a 1-year sample size. This is back to last year. Last year, Dio 17 of 17 targets in zone coverage. Like, that's unbelievable. And then 11 of 22 in man. And again, like I said, it tracks back to the year before where like let's look at his rankings in man to zone out of 83 quarters last year. Completion rate 22nd to 83rd. Forcing completion rate 22nd to 83rd. Snaps per reception 35th to 45th. And 23 in the slot out of 87 corners, his completion rate goes from 10th to 83rd. Forcing completion rate 46th to 73rd. Snaps per reception 11th to 87th. So, and he's played, then with Wake Martindale, he played I think it was the second most like man percentage in the NFL. Last year it was about a 60-40 zone split. I think what gets lost with Cordale Flott is like he may be better than Deontay Banks, but he's better suited for the first corner off the bench role. Like he is someone who, like you said, like in zone coverage is just he's given up 85% of targets. He doesn't have great ball skills either. He has better ball skills, but he doesn't have great ball skills either. 2 interceptions in 3 years. And one of those was, a popped up pass on a Kyle Pitts drop against the Falcons. And like he gives up plays to bigger bodied receivers down the field. When he gets one-on-one down the field, he can even be in a good spot. It's not because of lack of ball skills, it's because of size and strength that he's able to give that up. In the run game, Flott struggles. Banks seems to be a little more effort-wise, but Flotts can get bullied out there because of his lack of size. So there is some good moments with Cordale Flott, right? Where he is playing with outside leverage and he gets a slant or a crosser, things that take advantage of that leverage, and he fights back, gets inside, and breaks that pass up. There's a lot of plays of Cordale Flott's of highlights that look like that. And he wasn't targeted a lot last year, right? And that was a benefit of, having Deontay Banks targeted so often. They gave Flott a lot of double team help. But in reality, he is a guy who has struggled as well.
Yeah, and when it comes to the run game stuff, he really struggles to get off blocks, especially when he's like backpedaling in coverage too. If he's downfield, he has a lot of trouble getting off to make plays in the run game. And additionally, even when he's not getting blocked, he's not really the best tackler either. Aggressive, definitely going to try, but bringing guys down, not really his strong suit in terms of the run game. Now in coverage, obviously that's a little bit easier. Um, but one thing that we're not really talking about is Cordale Flott is an incredibly, incredibly young fourth-year player. He is only 24 years old right now. So, I think that the corner position is one of the hardest to learn at the NFL level. And I'm not saying that he's going to make some catastrophic leap to, a catastrophic, that's kind of astronomical leap. Let's say that. Uh, I don't think that he's going to just become this great corner because he's only 24 years old now, but I definitely think that there's some experience and wisdom stuff that can continue to have him develop. I don't know that he's necessarily finished, especially because I think that he's spent a little bit too much time in the slot and not really at his best position on the outside.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and there's a couple of reasons why he can't play in the slot. One is because of the size, and he's like, oh, well, that fits better. Like, no, his lack of weight makes him very bad in the run game, not in coverage wise, and you have to be stronger as a nickel corner nowadays because teams play so much nickel. Um, the other thing is, I had never seen a guy just make so many mental mistakes on zone assignments. Like, just totally like, what is going on here? He's just blowing his assignment. At nickel corner, that doesn't show up a ton. And then at outside corner in zone coverage, he doesn't play with good instincts and he gives up a lot of passes, but you're not going to have the blown coverages because 90% of the time you're like at outside corner, it's play either deep third, deep fourth, or man coverage, right? The responsibilities, there's different things to make you a better corner, but you're not gonna have these blown responsibilities. You're just not gonna have these great instinctive plays. And that shows up when you don't have a single incompletion forced um in an entire year as an outside starting corner. So it's Flott. I would like Deontay Banks to win this job, first of all, just because he's a more talented player. He has more invested. I don't think it's wrong if Flott wins it, but even if Flott wins it, it's not because Flott needs to be a starting corner in the NFL. And in reality, he is a backup corner, and he could maybe get there. Um, and he just doesn't seem to be able to add the weight that we talked about when he was first drafted, and some guys just can't do that. But despite him being young, I just don't. I think what his realistic ceiling is with that young is still a low end starter.
Yeah, I would agree, and I do think that he looked a little bit better in Wink Martindale's system, and that's not like an excuse or anything like that, but I just think that the constant pressure brought by Wink Martindale will cover up a lot of your blown assignments
Allows you to play
and
quicker too, because they're getting the ball out quicker.
exactly, yeah, and everything's sort of in front of you at that point, and you just jack a guy up at the line of scrimmage, and hopefully you've got somebody there, in the quarterback's face within 2 seconds. So, um, I do think that potentially 2025 could be a little bit better of a season for him if the Giants pass rush is what we hope it will be. And we can see some of his mistakes kind of get erased by pressure in the quarterback's face and forcing bad throws and bad decisions.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see how that helps him. And hey, so it's still we don't know at this point who's actually starting at that spot. Yeah, this is literally this episode coming out. Essentially have 2 more days of decision making before that decision has to be made. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you again tomorrow. Until then, let's go Big Blue.